Our elites are always telling you how progressive they are. They tout their commitment to diversity. They fret about global warming. They're up for any new bathroom rule you can think of as long as it sounds modern. They're classic cool moms, basically, eager to show off their open minds. But their liberalism ends at the water's edge. When it comes to China, our greatest rival, American elites bow deeply to the elderly fascists who run that country. When the Chinese say jump, our ruling class has only one question: how high? Consider Gap, the proudly liberal clothing outfit. This spring, Gap pulled a T-shirt from all of its stores worldwide because that shirt featured an outline of China. The image did not include Taiwan or an obscure group of disputed islands in the South China Sea, and Beijing complained about that. Gap immediately destroyed the T-shirts. Then the company issued a groveling press release. Quote, Gap Inc. respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of China. We failed to reflect the correct map of China. In other words, I'm sorry for being naughty, most honorable sir. Gap promised it would never happen again. That's just one of many examples. In January, Marriott apologized for listing Tibet, Taiwan, and Hong Kong and Macau as separate countries on an email questionnaire. Then Marriott fired an employee who liked to tweet about it. Marriott's obsequious apology to China's dictator says it all. Quote, some associates did not understand or take seriously enough the sovereignty and territorial integrity of China. Clearly written by the Chinese. Offending China is now a fireable offense in this country. American Express, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, they all agree. Those companies have all changed online content to eliminate suggestions that Taiwan and China are separate countries, even though, of course, they are separate countries. The Chinese insist American companies lie about that, and so they do. Hollywood's been doing it for years. The movie studios have been obedient to China's rulers probably for more than a decade. Ask Richard Gere. The actor, he says now he has trouble getting work because his views on Tibet offend Chinese officials. In 2016, the movie Doctor Strange, producers cast a white woman in the role of a Tibetan character. Why'd they do that? Doesn't sound like the diversity doctrine at work. It's not, but they did it anyway. Why? Well, the screenwriter explained that casting an ethnic Tibetan would make China mad, so they couldn't. In 2012, a remake of Red Dawn changed the bad guy from China to North Korea. Why? You know, because they didn't want to offend Beijing. How eager are American elites to do the bidding of their Chinese masters? Ask yourself this. Whatever happened to the Dalai Lama? Remember him? He used to be a hero to Americans, especially American liberals. They loved him. You almost never hear his name anymore. It turns out the Chinese government doesn't like him for his human rights activism. So under pressure from the Chinese government, his appearances by the Dalai Lama have been canceled around the world, including, shamefully, in this country. The Dalai Lama may be a great moral leader, but China pays the bills. Frank Wolf is a rare former member of Congress who has been sounding the alarm on China for a very long time, and he joins us now. Congressman, I'm grateful to have you. You really are one of the very few former members of Congress who is pointing out the human rights abuses in China and is willing to say what is true, which is they're bullying us. Why is that? Why aren't more saying it?
Well, I don't know, Tucker, but you're right. I mean, 142 Tibetan monks and nuns poured kerosene on their bodies, set themselves aflame. There are Uyghur Muslim children, thousands being taken away to detention camps. Catholic bishops
right now?
Right now.
Muslims are being rounded up in China.
Thousands. Many thousands in detention camps, almost like Stalinist camps. And Catholic bishops missing, 2 Catholic. Chris Smith took Holy Communion from Bishop Sue. He's never been seen again. Protestant pastors are being arrested. I mean, it is as bad today as it's ever been since Mao. And you're exactly right. I mean, Richard Gere will never make another movie. AMC has been sold to the Chinese. Other studios have been sold, and they censor you, and then they censor you. They say, if you run that, Richard Gere will never be in a major movie.
So without naming names, because this is a very small city, and you've been here for a long time, but looking out across the city, you know a lot of lobbyists, a lot of them served in Congress. What percentage would you say are on the payroll in some way with China?
Well, I'll say some names. I mean, one of the bigger firms in town, Squires, Patton Boggs, they represent the Chinese government. They also represent Bashir, the indicted war criminal from Sudan who's been indicted for genocide. So Squires, Patton Boggs, they represent them.
So would you say that many different lobbying outfits, PR firms in Washington in some way take money from the Chinese interests?
Yes, they do. What's just interesting, during the 80s when I got elected, when Ronald Reagan was here, no company, no PR firm, no law firm would have ever represented the Soviet Union. And now so many are representing China. I mean, for Squires, Patton Boggs to represent Bashir, the president of Sudan, who is an indicted war criminal for genocide, what took place in Darfur. So the standards in this town have totally changed.
Do you think that that may be connected to the fact that you hear a lot about Russia, but you never hear anything about China's human rights abuses? Do you think they're connected?
The human rights abuses and lack of religious freedom is worse today in China than it's been since the days of Mao. And don't forget, President Xi has now appointed himself president for life. It is terrible. That's why I can't understand the very fact that thousands of Muslim kids are being taken away. I had a Muslim woman come by my office about 2 months ago. 35 of her grandchildren have been taken and put in these detention camps. I urge you to Google when this show's over.
I'm going to. We're doing, actually, you just
shocking.
Convinced me. Next week, we're going to do a segment on Chinese human rights abuses, and you would think that American liberals would care, but they don't. But you do, and I appreciate it. Congressman, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
Great to see you.